Bonjour, chers confrères. Après notre magnifique pèlerinage d'hier, nous reprenons ce matin avec les activités de notre séminaire. Et nous commençons donc la 5e session de ce séminaire. Je voudrais commencer par laisser la parole au Père Stéphane. Je parlerai bien sûr pendant ce séminaire en français pour cette modération. Et je commence donc par laisser la parole au Père Stéphane pour une communication importante.
Merci, je parle en français. Vous savez que pour la documentation de ce séminaire, les procès-verbaux ont une grande importance. Les secrétaires, dès le début de ce séminaire, ont élaboré non pas seulement les comptes rendus que nous avons entendus, mais aussi les procès-verbaux. Ces procès-verbaux, vous les trouvez sur le site du séminaire dans la section documents. Et là, en français, c'est écrit procès-verbal. Et là, vous trouverez tous les procès-verbaux jusqu'ici élaborés. Le groupe de préparation de séminaire a créé un groupe de 3 personnes pour revoir ces procès-verbaux. C'est Jeremy Blackwood, c'est Joseph Famery et c'est Rodrigo Arruda. Ces 3 personnes ont la tâche pendant cette journée de lire ces procès-verbaux, de les éventuellement modifier pour qu'ils puissent demain les présenter à l'Assemblée pour l'approbation. Si vous pouvez lire ces procès-verbaux aussi, si vous avez des idées, des modifications, quelque chose que vous manque, quelque chose que selon vous ne correspond pas à ce que vous avez entendu, vous pouvez vous adresser à un de ces 3 personnes responsables pour la révision des procès-verbaux. Donc, donnez un coup d'œil à cette documentation et éventuellement aider le groupe de 3 pour faire cette révision. Merci beaucoup.
Merci au Père Stéphane. Je profite pour inviter les membres de la commission théologique déhonienne de l'Asie à s'approcher déjà du podium, en tout cas celui qui va présenter. Parce que ce matin, bien sûr, nous allons avec eux tenter de comprendre le Père Dehon dans ses textes, mais cette fois-ci avec son œuvre, les chroniques du règne. Donc, nous allons tenter aussi de rattraper le temps que nous avons déjà perdu. Cela signifie que le groupe prendra la parole. Oui, j'invite donc le secrétaire pour la minute que nous avons l'habitude d'entendre par rapport aux sessions précédentes.
Vous avez la possibilité de trouver ces textes en français et en anglais dans le groupe WhatsApp. Je parle em português. Dehon e sua correspondência epistolar. A 4ª sessão do seminário foi dedicada ao estudo da correspondência epistolar de Padre Dehon. A Comissão Africana partiu do vasto conjunto de cartas disponíveis no site Dehon Docs, distinguindo cartas escritas por Dehon, cartas dirigidas a ele e cartas circulares. Para tornar possível a pesquisa, concentrou-se nas cartas escritas pelo próprio Dehon entre 1864 e 1923. A questão central foi compreender o que estas cartas revelam sobre o fundador, às quais questões ele respondia, como se dirigia aos diferentes interlocutores e o que destas respostas ainda pode interpelar a família dehoniana. A primeira chave de leitura foram os destinatários, família, amigos, autoridades eclesiásticas e confrades. Cada grupo fez emergir um rosto de Dehon, filho diante dos pais, amigo intelectual, sacerdote diante das autoridades, fundador e pai diante dos confrades. A correspondência revela, sim, um homem profundamente relacional, capaz de adaptar sua linguagem à pessoa, à situação e à finalidade da comunicação. A segunda parte concentrou-se na forma e no conteúdo das cartas. Elas não são apenas instrumentos de informação, mas espaços nos quais Dehon pensa, discerne, aconselha, governa, consola, persuade e se posiciona. Nelas aparecem a espiritualidade da cruz, a confiança na providência, a centralidade do coração de Jesus, a obediência, a reparação e a caridade fraterna. Surge um Dehon sensível, organizado, administrador, fundador, conselheiro e homem de profunda vida espiritual, mas também marcado pelos conflitos, limites e categorias do seu tempo. A terceira parte tratou da atualidade das correspondências. Reconheceu-se que linguagens sobre autoridade, família, cristandade, espírito de vítima, sofrimento e patriotismo não podem ser simplesmente transportadas do século XIX para o presente. Ao mesmo tempo, permanecem fecundos o testemunho da perseverança vocacional, a abertura ao mundo, a fidelidade criativa, o cuidado das relações, o serviço, a confiança na providência e a centralidade do coração de Jesus. A resposta norte-americana introduziu uma questão. As cartas nos permitem encontrar diretamente Dehon ou encontramos também o Dehon que ele constrói ao escrever? A carta é comunicação, mas também construção retórica. Dehon tranquiliza, persuade, defende-se, pede, corrige e procura obter determinadas respostas. Somos leitores posteriores de textos que não foram escritos por nós, por isso, o Dehon epistolar não pode ser identificado imediatamente com o Dehon biográfico. A análise crítica reconheceu a força do estudo, sobretudo por humanizar o fundador e evitar uma imagem idealizada, mas pediu maior precisão quanto à representatividade das cartas, ao seu possível estatuto como fonte teológica, ao uso de categorias de autor e leitor implícitos, a releitura de conceitos como obediência, vítima, reparação e providência à luz da teologia contemporânea e a distinção entre aquilo que pertence ao carisma e aquilo que está condicionado pela cultura do século XIX. Os trabalhos dos grupos retomaram essas questões. Houve ampla convergência em reconhecer nas cartas uma fonte privilegiada para conhecer o rosto humano e relacional de Dehon. Aparecem o homem afetuoso, metódico, atento aos detalhes, administrador, formador, missionário e construtor de relações. A correspondência foi também percebida em complementariedade com as notes quotidiennes e, de modo particular, em contraste com as couronnes d'amour. Enquanto em certos escritos, Dehon se retira para conduzir o leitor ao coração de Jesus, nas cartas, ele próprio aparece na trama concreta de suas relações. Os grupos destacaram ainda o valor pedagógico das correspondências para a formação inicial e permanente, para a compreensão da liderança da missão, da vida comunitária e do discernimento. Surgiram propostas de leitura sistemática das cartas e até de uma possível reconstrução biográfica de Dehon a partir das mesmas. Na plenária, aprofundou-se a tensão entre personalidade e estratégia comunicativa. As diferentes imagens de Dehon podem revelar aspectos autênticos de sua personalidade, mas também são moldadas pelas relações e pela finalidade de cada carta. A linguagem particularmente acentuada de obediência nas cartas às autoridades é um exemplo desta construção. A questão da providência levou igualmente a distinguir uma verdadeira teologia da história, presente no pensamento de Dehon, de interpretações providencialistas que atribuem automaticamente a cada acontecimento um significado divino imediato. Por fim, distinguiu-se o potencial formativo das cartas e registrou-se o avanço da publicação do corpus no Dehon Docs, cuja conclusão está prevista para o fim de 26 ou início de 27. A quarta sessão, assim, deixou uma conclusão fecunda. As cartas são uma porta privilegiada para entrar no mundo de Dehon, mas não uma janela transparente para o Dehon real. Elas revelam e, ao mesmo tempo, constroem. Testemunham e interpretam. Mostram a pessoa e também a maneira como ela se apresenta diante do outro. Por isso, precisam ser lidas histórica, literária, espiritual e criticamente. O desafio não é simplesmente repetir o que Dehon escreveu, mas discernir através de seus escritos aquilo que permanece vivo do carisma e aquilo que precisa ser traduzido para um novo tempo. Obrigado.
Voilà, en remerciant infiniment le Père Nilsson pour ce compte rendu. Nous allons donc, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, laisser la parole à la commission déhonienne, à la commission théologique déhonienne de l'Asie, pour nous entretenir sur le Père Dehon dans les chroniques du règne. Nous espérons rattraper aussi avec leur présentation le temps perdu. Nous leur laisserons entre 45 et 50 minutes de présentation. Merci infiniment.
Merci. Merci Père Alain. Bonjour à tous. J'espère que vous avez bien passé un bel jour auprès de Notre-Dame de l'Aparecida hier. I'm Emmanuel from Asian Commission. I speak in English. I wanted to contribute to the uplifting of the lower classes with the advent of justice and Christian charity. La Chronique du Sud-Est. Dehon as the implied author, mock reader, and contemporary relevance. The structure of my presentation is more or less, it follows the same methodology which you see on the screen. Introduction, and the presentation is divided into two parts. Part one has the history of the Chronique du Sud-Est and why these particular years from 1889 to 1903, the 15 years of Dehon's contribution and collaboration to this particular journal, La Chronique. Why are these years so important, relevant for us in the life of Father Dehon and for us as Dehonians today? And in the second part, we'll be dealing with reading Dehon in his texts as the implied author and the mock reader, the problems and the challenges of reading Dehon and the application of these texts for our context today, particularly to the context of Asia. Before we get into the text, I would like you to have a view about on the screen, to have a brief glance about the profile of Father Dehon, starting from his life in Paris as a student. We see, shall we go for the third? Yeah. May I request you to have a glance at the screen. We see a brief profile about the life of Father Dehon as a student in France and an advocate. Later he became a priest and a religious, founded the congregation. As a founder, he was a spiritual director, and he was an influencer of through so many people through his social writings, and he was a propagator of the encyclicals of Leo XIII. He was a social reformer, he was a democrat, and a missionary. This slide manifests the entirety, the totality of the life of Dehon as a person and as a priest, as a religious. We see on the screen there are different writings of Father Dehon. On the left, you find the spiritual writings, Couronne d'amour, L'année avec le Sacré-Cœur, Mois du Sacré-Cœur de Jésus, La dévotion au Sacré-Cœur de Jésus, Étude sur le Sacré-Cœur de Jésus, and La retraite avec le Sacré-Cœur. These writings manifest Dehon's spiritual journey, Dehon's spiritual encounter, and Dehon's intimacy with the heart of Christ, the union with the heart of Christ. We have been dealing with especially the Couronne d'amour by the North American continent, the commission. They have enhanced us with their presentation about the profundity of Couronne d'amour. But on the right hand, we see also the social writings of Father Dehon on the right side. Catechisme social chrétien, Manuel social chrétien, Nos congrès, Usure au temps présent, Le plan avec franc-maçonnerie, and Education de caractère. These are the social works of Father Dehon that manifest his social engagement. These writings present both the contemplative and the active life of Father Dehon as a religious. But in nowhere of this we find a particular text or a particular reference to the Chronique du Sud-Est. What are these Chronique du Sud-Est? I have been asking some of the conference during these days whether they have ever heard about the Chronique du Sud-Est. And many responded to me, they don't know what are these Chronique du Sud-Est. In our novitiate or during our formative years, we are acquainted with maybe studying particularly Couronne d'amour, Catechisme social chrétien, or some other spiritual or social works of Father Dehon. But the chronics, the majority are unaware or ignorant. In fact, the Chronique du Sud-Est are the writings of Father Dehon, his contributions to this particular journal. It is not journal founded by Father Dehon, but rather he collaborated. He wrote a monthly articles every month. He wrote the articles to this chronic. And Father Albert Bourgeois, he speaks about, he explains what these chronicles are about. In 1889, Dehon founded a magazine called The Reign of the Heart of Jesus. The Reign of the Heart of Jesus in Souls and Societies. This was for him the beginning of an important activity as a publicist. He published most of his writings and essays there. His works even appeared there at first in articles in The Reign of the Sacred Heart of Jesus in Souls and Societies. But in November 1903, Dehon decided to stop publication of his magazine, which is The Reign of the Sacred Heart in Souls and Societies, which he had begun 12 years earlier. Afterwards, he contributed to other social journals, his largest association being with La Chronique du Sud-Est, the Southeast Chronicle. I would like to have your attention to the screen to have a glimpse about Dehon's social engagement through various years. In 1870, Dehon started a newspaper organized St. Joseph Youth Club and Workers' Circle for young apprentices and workers living far from home. In 1871, he collaborated with Albert Dumont and René Dutour de Pin, who began a Catholic circle movement. In 1876, he addressed the seminarians at San Sulpice on social question, which gradually led to the annual conferences at Val-du-Bois until 1901. And in 1888, after the decree of praise by Leo XIII, Dehon preached officially the papal encyclicals of Leo XIII until 1903, which characterizes the year of the death of His Holiness Leo XIII. In 1889, Dehon launched his magazine, Reign of the Sacred Heart in Souls and Societies. And from there, he continued writing, contributing his articles, firstly in the Reign of the Sacred Heart in Souls and Societies. And in 1891, in July 1891, Dehon wrote an article in the Reign, the encyclical of May 15th on the social question, Rerum Novarum. In 1892, Dehon wrote of the French slogan, Liberté, Fraternité, Égalité, which speaks about the French Revolution and these three important aspects of the French nationality. And in 1895, there is a shift of the conferences which Dehon started at San Sulpice to St. John's College at St. Quentin, a veritable congress with 200 priests from over 30 dioceses. In 1896, Dehon participated in the third Congress of Workers' Studies Circle with 600 delegates. He participated in the same year in the Congress of the Circle Movement in Paris. He was a doctrinal expert of a Congress with 700 priests at Reims. And between 1897 to 1900, there was a fourth Congress. The participation of Dehon was seen in the fourth Congress of the Third Order Franciscans at Nimes and Dawn of Christian Democracy. Dehon functioned as a bridge builder between the conservatives, monarchies, and Rome. He played a pivotal role in the social life of the clergy and the faithful of France, and a connection to Rome as the church. He was functioning like a bridge builder between the state and the church through his writings. And in 1900, Dehon published Christian Social Renewal, a compendium of his lectures delivered in Rome to various bishops and cardinals. And in 1903, it was the year marked in the history of Dehon's life, the death of Leo XIII, his close friend and guide, and the cessation of Dehon's social engagement is seen on this year. He stopped writing publishing in the Reign of the Sacred Heart in Souls and Societies, and then continued to collaborate in Chronique du Sud-Est. You see, these years from 1870 until 1903 and even further, they manifest Dehon's social engagement through his writings, especially through various articles, through various on various themes and topics that would stimulate the readers of his time on social issues and the issues related to the church and the state, the political as well as the spiritual life of the people. And why these particular 15 years, 1889 to 1903. For the bourgeois, in his book Le Père Dehon et le règne de cœur de Jésus, he writes, the reign of the heart of Jesus is 15 years of Father Dehon's life, 15 years of overflowing activity, the great years of his social action, marked by congresses, conferences, and various publications, both spiritual and social. 15 years of trials as well, from the summer of 1889 to that of 1893, when Father Dehon left Saint-Jean, then beyond the suffering of the General Chapter of 1896 until the expulsion of his congregation and its religious and the forced emigration to Brussels in 1903. 15 years also, if not of fame, at least of national and international commitment. His name appears in various journals and his writings are readily referenced in the press. The congresses, 15 years of great development for his congregation, not only in Europe, the presence of the congregation in those years, in Luxembourg, Belgium, and Netherlands and Rome, but also in northern Brazil, the Congo, Jafra, southern Brazil, Denmark, and for a time, Tunisia at that time. And Father Bourgeois continues in few points about the relevance of these years. He says that these years for Dehon, they were like a spiritual union along with social reformation. They manifest Dehon's spiritual experience in his social engagement, a collage of spiritual and social transformation in the very life of Dehon, maturity of thinking, personality, and a response to the revelation at paralemonial, a social response to the revelation at paralemonial, social reign of the Sacred Heart. There are some important events in the life of Father Dehon that characterize the year 1889. Firstly, for the people of France, for French, 1889, that refers to the centenary of the Great Revolution of 1789, French Revolution. For Catholics, it was the bicentenary of the giving up of the Sacred Heart to King Louis XIV in 1689. And for us as Dehonians, it was the launching of the year of their journal, Le règne du Sacré-Cœur de Jésus dans les âmes et la société. And it was also the year of the founding of the school at Clairefontaine on 12th June in 1889. On the other side, 1903, it was the 60th birthday of Father Dehon, 1843 to 1903. It was the 25 years of his anniversary of his religious profession, 1878 to 1903, and 35th year of his priesthood, anniversary of his priesthood, and the death of Dehon's spiritual friend, guide, and father, His Holiness Leo XIII. Now we move to the second part of our presentation, Dehon as the implied author. We have 5 divisions in this presentation. The first one is about the textual and historical. And second one, we talk about ecclesial, patriarchal, and apologetic. Third one is about catechetical and dialogue form, direct, succinct, and practical language. And the fifth one, integration of mysticism and social justice, which we find in his writings of these articles at Chronic du Sud-Est. Dehon, as the implied author, in his textual and historical approach, we find there are anti-Semitic, apostasy, and reformative thoughts. Dehon raises an ambiguous discussion about Jewish, Islamic, schismatics, heretics, and idolaters. Dehon mentions about the possibility of mission to the Islamic world, but in a negative connotation, where he addresses to awaken apathetic populations. There is an apostasy in his writings. Some of the themes of his articles are anti-clericalism, laicization of education, conflict between the church and the republic, the Dreyfus affair, and the anti-Semitic controversies, etc. Dehon methodologically traced the contrasting ideologies of the history of from the 18th century onward to frame secular liberalism, socialism, and unrestricted capitalism as systematic philosophical errors. He was prophetic and visionary on the other side. In his writings, Dehon positions the church not as an enemy of time, but as the means to salvation, not as a problem to the society, but as a remedy or a solution to find true freedom and happiness. The second point, ecclesial, patriarchal, and apologetic. These texts necessitate the examination of political, social, religious, and cultural events in Dehon's life. As a faithful son of the church, Dehon frequently mentions himself as the faithful son of the church, and he addresses France as the faithful daughter of the church, where he stands as a strong supporter of the papacy of Leo XIII, a promoter of his magisterium, Rerum Novarum, particularly, of course, Rerum Novarum, a conservative thinker deeply concerned with the preservation of Christian order and morality in the society. Dehon, as the implicit author, manifests the reality of his epoch, brave to address the most powerful of the society, Jews and the Freemasonry, presents the church as vulnerable and the victim that suffers the rise of revolution, renaissance, socialism, secularization, and laicization. Catechetical and dialogical form. As most of his writings present both spiritual and social, these articles of Chronic text also manifest this dialogical form, which is very common to the writing style of Father Dehon, where he questions and answers. No? It's a question and answer structure. He raises the question on behalf of the society, the people, and he tries to present the solutions, the answers to the questions. There is a sense of controversial clarity in his writings. He chunked complex socio-economic and political debates, religious and social issues, accessibility. This deliberate structural choice allowed the workers in the factories, priests in the sacristies, and the elite of the noble families to easily grasp Christian ethics As an implied author, Dehon uses a very simple narrative style of the realities of his time so that people of various classes, various backgrounds are able to grasp the meaning, the significance, and the intention of the author. Direct, succinct, and practical language. His texts are not theoretical like most of the French authors of his time. Rather, he used simple, short, and direct sentences to convey his message. For example, leave the sacristy and go to the people. He intentionally used succinct language that is easy to understand because the poor and the weaker sections were part of his mock readers too, besides the clergy and the noble class, for whom it was easy to grasp. But rather he had the entirety of the audience, of the group of various classes as part of his target, his audiences. He is not abstract in his writings, but he frequently grounded his texts in real world observations of the industrial revolution, poverty, and factory life, etc. Integration of mysticism and social justice. Usage of the devotion to the Sacred Heart and its spirituality is often found in the Chronique du Sud-Est to motivate people to consecrate themselves to the Sacred Heart and to return to the Church. Emphasizing the social dimension of the devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, the reign of the Sacred Heart in souls and societies. There is a blending of mysticism and social action, contemplation and social engagement. I would rather say oblation and reparation. He used active vocabulary by using the verbs of the social movement, transformation and salvation. We move to the second point of the second part, the mock reader. May I grab your attention to the screen? We think is mock reader could be possibly the religious clergy of his time or the participants of various conferences, no congrès, or could be also the children and the youth of Dehon's social engagement in the factories, the factory workers, or SCJs today. The mock reader then and now, the possibility of the mock reader, and how by reading Dehon, people could understand, comprehend Dehon in his texts of his time and of our present context. The mock reader then stands as a person who receives the current information of what is happening in the society. The reader plays a passive role where he or she is spoon-fed with information on various fields of interest, such as the teachings of the church and the position of the state, rising of socialistic and liberal ideologies, the social challenges of particularly there is a conscience formation that stimulates the reader. The reader is addressed as a recipient intended to absorb Catholic social teaching and let it shape their daily moral choice. The mock reader then also is the target audience who is stimulated and encouraged to take on active participation in the social action initiated by the church, Christian social democracy. The writings of Dehon stand as a practical guide. The reader is invited to find not only information about problems, but also answers to political and social challenges, such as participating in Republican elections or dealing with labor strikes, creating associations and labor unions, etc. And they are urged to step out of apathy and champion the centrality of the human person, the common good, and the protection of the weak, etc. The mock reader now, in our present context, reading Dehon, it calls for the holistic integration, values his core premise. The true devotion to the Sacred Heart demands practical justice, education, and economic reform rather than mere private piety. It applauds the dedication of the author to defend exploited weaker sections in the society. The paternalistic limits. The mock reader now finds oneself on social hierarchy overly top-down, expecting benevolence from employers rather than true systematic and structural parity. The anachronistic politics. The mock reader struggles to capture the rejection of modern democratic pluralism and socialism in favor of restoring a distinct Christian social order of the society. The mock reader now, reeling from the modern discovery of anti-Semitic tropes in some of his secondary or polemic texts, requiring a sober re-examination of his historical limitations, the limitations that we can find in the writings of Dehon and in his historical context, etc. And for a mock reader now of our present context, there is always the difficulty to comprehend the interreligious tensions. Understanding the context of the times enables the intention of the author. If not, there is always a possibility to misunderstand and misinterpret the intention as well as the persona on religious grounds. We now move to the third point of the second part, Dehon today, application of the Dehonian text to our context today. The first point is text and contextual parallelism. The logical progression of ideas reduces the distance between the 19th century and the present context. His arguments are grounded in concrete historical data, such as demographic, statistics, and social indicators, which provide an empirical foundation for his theological reflections. Socio-spiritual parallelism. These texts deepens one's knowledge about the social dimension of the spirituality of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which provides an integrating framework for social engagement. Dehon, in his writings, maintained that social transformation cannot be sustained by legal mechanisms alone, but requires an interior conversation rooted in love. The Sacred Heart functions as the theological symbol of a social order animated by compassion, self-giving, and justice. Theo-anthropological parallelism. The text addresses universal human experiences that remain intelligible across generations. His concern for justice, peace, and human dignity speaks to fundamental aspirations that continue to shape contemporary ethical discourse. By focusing on the lived experience of suffering, Dehon avoids abstract moralism. Instead, he situates theology within concrete human realities. This anthropological sensitivity enhances the text's intelligibility. Socio-economic parallelism. Dehon's interrogation of the conflict between capital and the labor, monarchy and the workers, the elite and the poor, remains acutely relevant in today's global economy. He challenges the justice of economic systems driven by unrestrained competition and usury that reduce the human person to just a commodity. Dehon's critique of economic systems continues to confront modern assumptions about market absolutism. He rejects any form of economic Darwinism that reduces human relationships to competition governed solely by supply and demand methodology. There is a religious pluralism. The texts address themselves that are hard to digest today, particularly on religious issues such as the supremacy of the church and the absoluteness of the truth, etc. In a multi-religious context of Asia, where today's church walks towards ecumenism and interreligious dialogue, there is a sense of religious ambiguity in reading Dehon today. Hence, we move to the conclusion. This underscores, reading Dehon in Chronique du Sud-Est, it underscores the importance of reading the text and the opportunity it offers to understand Dehon from his own thoughts, scribbled in his articles and texts. His thoughts continue to inspire, and his legacy lives on globally through various pastoral and social ministries of his disciples, Dehonians, SUJs today. His ongoing mission continues to respond to the needy and the lower classes of society, seeking justice and human dignity. Thank you.
Je parle en français et je voudrais dire infiniment merci à la Commission théologique déhonienne de l'Asie qui nous a permis, avec cet exposé, de gagner largement en temps par rapport au retard que nous avions pris ce matin. Alors nous sommes rendus à 9h28. Nous allons prendre le petit break prévu et nous reviendrons pour la réponse et bien sûr les travaux en groupe. Merci infiniment. À 10h, oui, nous revenons à 10h pour la réponse et les travaux et l'annonce des travaux en groupe. Merci infiniment. proposition de la Commission théologique de l'Asie.
Thank you, Father. I am happy because today is the Indonesian shirt day. We have almost everyone has a shirt. For this reaction, I want to distinguish what the Asian Commission sent to us as a document and what they presented here. Here is more complete that they did in the document. My reaction is at the document, not at they did here. The first one, strengths of the Asia Commission document. The Commission of Asia document has several genuine strengths. First, it provides useful historical and biographical context about Dehon. It places his thought within the pontificate of Leo XIII and within the social and political debates of his time. Second, it correctly identifies major themes: the social question, Christian democracy, the social kingdom of the Sacred Heart, the criticisms of capitalism and socialism, and the search for a Christian form of justice and charity. Third, another one, its sections on Dehon today is relevant. It connects Dehon's thought with contemporary concerns such as economic inequality, consumerism, political division, and the environment crisis. It helps readers see that historical texts can still raise questions for the present. Fourth, it is a useful text to understand the social thought of Father Dehon. And now the weaknesses and analytical gaps. The main weakness in that the CTDA's document promises an analysis of the implicit author and the mock reader, but fails to develop them systematically. It describes themes more than it analyzes language. It should examine pronouns such as we, you, and I, imperatives, rhetorical questions, direct appeals, and the different voices present in the text. They didn't that. A second weakness is that it treats a long period as homogeneous. It does not sufficiently distinguish the changes between the urgent tone of the early years, the strategic tone of the middle period, and the broader international outlook of the later years in the chronics of the Sud-Est. A third weakness is that it does not clearly distinguish between Le Règne du Cœur de Jésus, which Dehon founded and directed, and La Chronique du Sud-Est, where he was a contributor. This changes the position of the author. In his own journal, Dehon speaks as an owner editor. In La Chronique, he speaks as an important contributor in an external publication. His voice is therefore more exhortative and conversational than fully authoritative. The document should also more carefully analyze the treatment of anti-Semitism, the importance of the Southeast regional identity, and the rhetorical function of electoral statistics. Statistics are not neutral details in these articles. They are used to produce alarm and to mobilize the readers. I think that we have worked here in a synodality system. And I think that we can, in this for the Asia Commission, work also together, Latin America Commission and Asia Commission, to achieve the goal of the analysis of the La Chronique du Sud-Est. Because Father Emerson studied, he read before the read a work, document of the La Chronique du Sud-Est, and myself read also these documents and analyzed some of these documents because we worked about in our commission before the seminar. And this is a proposal also for this commission. The implicit author as mediator between Rome, France, and society. The editorial voice presents itself as a mediator of papal teaching. Father Dehon does not merely repeat a papal statement. He interprets it as a program for contemporary society. The implicit author therefore appears as a Catholic intellectual who translates Roman authority into French social and political action. On ne peut nier l'existence d'un mouvement démocratique universel. Il faut donc le rendre chrétien si l'on ne veut pas qu'il devienne socialiste. Les sources est dans les chroniques, les documents Comprendez-nous, April 1898. The author remains explicit Catholic, but the address is not reduced to a closed group of religious specialists. In Comprendez-nous, the address is to the readers of the magazine as such. Oui, vous l'avez compris. Vous, chers lecteurs de la chronique, the same source. This formulation is evidence of a mediated publication context. Dehon writes within La Chronique du Sud-Est, a magazine with its own editorial identity, and appeals to its readers rather than presenting himself as the sole owner of the public. The audience is defined by participation in the magazine and by its capacity for social understanding. A Catholic author addressing a public broader than practicing Catholics. The widening of the public is also visible in the way Dehon recognizes the causes of the workers' movements instead of simply condemning it. La grande industrie avec ses usines malsaines, le travail des femmes et des enfants, l'agglomération des ouvriers dans les villes, l'instabilité du travail et des salaires a créé un malaise spécifique dans le monde du travail. Les sources et Comprendez-nous de April 1898. The evidence indicates an author who wants Catholics to speak to the wider social world. The reader must understand industrial society, labor, wages, and political conflict, even when the proposed answers remains Christians. The implicit author uses histories as a political argument. Dehon constructs an authoritative historical voice. He claims that the official interpretation of history has been distorted and offered the Christian Middle Age as an alternative model of civilization. L'histoire a été faussée depuis 300 ans par l'influence césarisme des gouvernements européens. Les sources, l'histoire et la démocratie. In the year 1898, 10 years after that, the last document that we said. The implicit author used histories as a political argument. The author's polemical method is visible in his treatment of the process. President the process, it was an important historic critics in France, and they critique the Middle Age and the Gothic monuments. The example is not a detached art historical note. It supports a larger thesis. The modern readers has been thought to despise the Christian Middle Age. C'est vieux, c'est noir, c'est gothique. Les Goths ont-ils jamais fait un bon ouvrage sur l'histoire et la démocratie? 1898. The implicit author does not interpret France in isolation. He compares French Catholic Asian with Belgium, Italy, Germany, and Rome. Europe becomes a field of examples from which the French reader must learn. It's interesting because he first speaks to a Catholic person, then is more white, is Catholic, but not only practical Catholic, and now he speaks in a broader way and speak also to the Catholic people, but they have to have a broader vision, and they have to read also what it happens in Europe. In Soyons pratiques, Belgium is presented as a corrective to French rhetoric. Vous autres Français, vous parlez mieux que nous, mais vous n'agissez pas assez. Ils ont sûrement plus d'activité, plus d'esprit, de suite et d'organisation que nous. Source, les sources Soyons pratiques, 1898. The author becomes self-critical. He asks French readers to imitate Belgian continuity, organization, and practical action. The mock reader is a reader capable of comparison and reform. The European horizon becomes even clearer in March 1903, when Dehon asked French readers to consult foreign newspapers. En France, nous ne lisons pas assez les journaux étrangers. Nous y trouverons souvent des lumières, des avertissements, des conseils dont nous pourrons tirer profit. The same, is another sort of France. Aide-toi, le ciel te aidera. March 1903. In January 1968, the author speaks with enthusiasm about the Catholic Congress and the victory of the Pope. The spectator reader is a Catholic who believes that unity can produce social reform. C'est la victoire définitive du pape. L'union est désormais faite entre tous les catholiques, complète et agissante. Religion, famille, patrie, travail et propriété. 1898, the source. From enthusiasm to alarm and analysis. In March 1998, the voice becomes more alarmed. They use electoral statistics to show that socialism is expanding. Socialism has made further progress in France. It garnered 30,000 votes in 1885, 176,000 votes in 1889, and 600,000 votes in 1893. This time it has over 1 million. These statistics construct a reader who can follow political evidence and draw a practical conclusion. The reader must not only feel Catholic, the reader must interpret electoral change. Okay. In September 1898, the appeal is directed to the young people. The reader is a national and religious actor who must recover lost ground. En avant France, avancez jeunes gens, nous sommes en retard. September 1898. In October 1898, the same mobilization becomes organizational. The reader is expected to create durable structures and to act rather than merely speak. Belgium supplies the model of continuity and execution. From national Catholic identity to democratic and international competence. By 91, the reader must understand Christian democracy and its Italian development. In two Démocrates Chrétiens, Dehon present conference, social student group, Catholic Jews circles, and the debate with the socialist deputy Morgari. The reader is being formed for public participation, not only devotional practice. Il fallait mettre en branle les catholiques afin de répondre aux désirs exprimés dans l'encyclique Grave des communes sources. By March 1903, the reader is explicitly expected to read foreign Catholic newspaper and compare national experience. The evidence supports a movement from a Catholic participant in a national revival to a society informed, politically organized, and European reader. And conclusion. Wait. These points show a connected development. The implicit author begins as a mediator of papal authority and a defender of Catholic unity. He then becomes a social analyst, a critic of French passivity, an organizational strategic, and an interpreter of European Catholic experience. The mock reader evolves accordingly from a Catholic and patriotic reader to a reader of the social question, then to an organizer, elector, and participant in a broader European democratic Christian project. The quotation also supports the session qualification that Dehon writes in a magazine that is not his private property. His voice is strong, but is situated within La Chronique du Sud-Est. The repeated address to chers lecteurs de la Chronique, the formula revue d'action, and gradual widening of topic show a dialogue between Dehon's Catholic social vision and the magazine's broader editorial public. Thank you.
Merci. Je reprends en français. Merci à la Commission théologique de l'Amérique latine pour cette réponse qu'elle adresse au texte proposé par la Commission théologique de l'Asie. Nous allons maintenant nous disperser pour les réflexions en groupe. La question demeure la même à travers les deux interventions que nous avons suivies ce matin. Quel aspect significatif, quel aspect important est-ce que nous pouvons retenir pour une meilleure compréhension du Père Dehon à travers ces textes? Donc nous en avons pour 30 minutes et on se retrouve ici dans la salle pour la plénière. Merci beaucoup. À 11 heures, on se retrouve ici à 11 heures pour la mise en commun et les plénières. Merci. Oui, nous n'oublions pas d'envoyer les réponses des groupes à Eduardo. Merci bien.